YouTube family. It's Lisa Romano, the Breakthrough Life Coach, and I am bowing to the love and the light in you. Namaste. So today I received an email from Rachel from Brooklyn, New York, and she writes, "Dear Lisa, thanks to your videos, I finally know what's wrong with me. Nothing. Turns out I am an empath and sadly also a codependent. Are all empaths codependent? And do you have any tips that can help me stay more grounded in my own skin? Thank you." So I get this question asked a lot, like what is the difference between an empath and a codependent, and are all empaths codependent? So an empath is someone who is highly sensitive, and a very small percentage of the population turns out to be highly sensitive. Empaths are those amongst us that tend to cry at everything, or we end up being very emotional about everything. We hear a news story and it resonates within our being. We see a picture of some tragedy and we can imagine the feelings of the people in the photo. We see and hear trees being chopped down, and we can't help but think about, oh my God, why is that poor tree being chopped down? We imagine that we can feel what the tree feels. We think about the birds who used to live in the tree and the nests that are being knocked out of the tree. And we're just overwhelmed by all these energies and these feelings from outside of ourselves. So I believe that being an empath that means that you're born highly sensitive. There are some people who believe that your astrological sign has something to do with being born super sensitive. There may be some truth to that. As a Piscean, the people that I relate to best are also Pisces. My husband happens to be a Pisces. A lot of my clients are Pisces, which is really interesting. A lot of them aren't. But it's just interesting that some astrological signs seem to be more in tune or attuned to what's happening outside of themselves, opposed to some people who are reacting to what is happening inside of them, but not necessarily because they can feel what someone else is feeling. They're reacting to what's happening, or they're reacting to how someone feels about them, which makes their internal environment very, very troubling and very sometimes chaotic. So there is a huge difference. So an empath is somebody who is naturally attuned to their environment, who is overwhelmed sometimes very easily by being in large groups of people. I had a client who was brought to me by one of my clients. Was his child. He brought me his child who was 17 years old and suffered from tics. And after working with this teenager, it became apparent that he was very much attuned to the energies that were around him, and he didn't understand what was coming at him. And so all he felt was overwhelming emotions, and he ended up having anxiety and could not sit still for a very long time in school, and would bolt, just, I can't sit here anymore, bolt. And when we dug a little deeper and he began to understand how he may have been picking up on other people's energies, then I taught him some skills that allowed him to be able to block so that he can move through life feeling more grounded and be aware that he's picking up naturally, almost psychically, on how other people are feeling. But he learned to hold on to himself so strongly that in spite of what he was feeling and picking up on in his environment, he could still go about his day and not get overwhelmed, which is that's a home run. And then his tics went away. Just amazing. I taught him some deep relaxation, taught him some breathing, taught him some meditation, and just amazing how much better this child is doing today. So the first part of the question is, what's the difference between an empath and a codependent? So an empath, you can be an empath and not be codependent. I am a recovering codependent and also an empath, which is a double whammy. Oh my Lord. So my heart goes out to anybody out there that is relating to being an empath, picking up on other people's energies, and being codependent, because you are like a feather in the wind. You are susceptible to how everybody else feels, and you're constantly trying to manage everybody else's emotions, constantly trying to make sure that everybody's okay, constantly trying to fix how other people feel. You take on other people's emotions. It's just a maddening experience. And I ended up with lots of problems, clinical depression and a lot of chronic illnesses, and hence they've all been lifted because I was able to diagnose what was really wrong with me, which was codependency. And then I learned to appreciate the fact that I'm also an empath. And so now I feel like I've been able to shield myself. So you can be an empath and feel for other people without having to fix them. You can be an empath and be solid in your skin and be able to empathize and have great empathy and high empathy for other people. But you can also be able to protect the divine inner child, if you will, and for the purpose of not allowing yourself to be sucked into other people's dramas. Most often, empaths are very, very much affected by how other people feel. But you can be an empath and pick up on how other people feel and not be responsible for how other people feel. So codependence will pick up on other people's energies and then sense that someone's upset and then go right into trying to fix why that person's upset. So they'll go right into trying to lift that person's mood. So when codependents do this, they're doing it for lots of reasons. They're taught that that's their job, to take care of other people. Sometimes codependents are codependent because they're seeking this attachment trauma rescue. They've been wounded in childhood. They've suffered an abandonment, a severe abandonment, most often a maternal abandonment. There is this wound that exists in the ethereal vibrational frequency of this aura of this human being. And psychologically, we're always trying to get that unmet need met. So very oftentimes codependents who are empaths and they're sensing that someone else is upset, it could be their husband, it could be their wife, it could be their kid, it could be their grandmother, their mother, their father, whoever, it could be a stranger. A codependent will swoop in and want to make that person feel better. And sometimes it's self-deprecating, sometimes it's rescuing, sometimes enables the other person, because what they're ultimately seeking is a sense of validation. So not all empaths are codependent, but codependents tend to be very empathic. So I hope that makes sense to you. And, keep your questions coming. As you send me questions, you force me to get a little bit deeper and a little bit more articulate. And there's no harm in that. In you, there I am, and in me, there you are. We are all part of a whole. And we're all really just facets of one another in terms of consciousness. So as you ask questions and I'm forced to figure something out on a deeper level, I bring it to you guys and we raise the vibrations of the planet. It's all good. Don't worry about dear ones. Whatever you want to ask me, ask me. So here are some 5 key exercises for empaths that I hope might help you. So the first thing that I want you to do, if you are someone who has very high empathy and you're finding it difficult to ground yourself, is I want you to commit yourself, really, really commit yourself, right? Because no one else can take you seriously until you take you seriously. We are literally creating our reality as we go. So if I am not being taken seriously, that is because I have not yet learned to take myself seriously. It is bizarre, but that's the way it works. As codependents, we're constantly seeking validation outside of ourselves, and generally we don't get it. And the moment the light bulb goes off, we go, okay, I have to validate myself. I have to stop seeking other people's validation. Okay, was that a codependent thought? Was that a healthy thought? Did I take care of myself? Did I expect someone else to take care of me? Did I take care of someone else's needs when they should have been taking care of their own needs? This is what I teach in my coaching program and in my one-to-one sessions, in my group calls, and on my YouTube channel. I'm trying to teach you guys to be more observing of the self, more cognitive. I want you out of the amygdala and the hippocampus, because that's where all your programming and all your reactivity exists. So I want you to be more neocortex, more prefrontal lobe, so that you can observe when you're actually having a codependent thought process. So you have to take yourself more seriously. Rule number 1, you're going to start each and every day with the intention to see life through your inner child's eyes first. So you're going to have empathy for the inner child first, okay? So your first order of business as an empath, as you're trying to really learn how to shield and ground yourself so that you can, resonate with higher frequencies and manifest the kind of life experience you really want to manifest, is you're going to start to take yourself more seriously. You have to intend to do that, because what happens is you walk into the world and you naturally pick up the energies of other people, the feelings and moods of other people. You can walk into a mall and look around the room, and it happens to me all the time. And all I have to do is look at someone's face, and their face tells a story to me, and I feel it in my being, like, wow, this is, oh wow. And my kids will say, "How do you know that?" I'm like, I don't know. It's just I'm sensing it. And I could be wrong. Obviously, we could all be wrong, but my gut, my spirit tells me no. So, because that is our natural state as an empath, we have to become extremely conscious and cognitive of how we relate to the world naturally. And so we have to intend, we have to use cognition, higher thoughts of consciousness, prefrontal lobe, neocortex. We've got to make CEO type decisions from our brain for our own behalf. So I say every day wake up with the intention to see life through the inner child's eyes first. So that means that when you're out and about, you ask yourself, see this situation through your eyes first, the inner child's eyes first. Have empathy for the inner child first. Have empathy for the inner child first. So let's say you hear a tragic news story like so many of us hear, and it's upsetting, and you find yourself overcome by imagining how this mother feels about, God forbid, losing her child, right? It's beautiful that you have that type of empathy. But many of us can spiral down into a state of depression because of something that happened halfway across the world. So while it's a beautiful thing, we also have to learn how to stay in our own reality if we're going to keep our vibrations high. So what we want to do is say namaste to the empathy, the empath that you are, and then remember to have empathy for the child, the inner child's experience, who is always feels sad for someone else, or who is inundated with vibrations for other people, who has a hard time staying grounded. So have empathy for the inner child first. I hope that helps you. So empaths can be like lobsters when they shed their, I don't know if you know this, but lobsters shed their shells, when they outgrow them. And so do shrimp. We were going to put some shrimp into my fish tank, and the guy at the fish store said, no, you can't, because some of your fish are just too aggressive. They will destroy and eat the shrimp and or the baby lobster. I was like, I don't want that. That's awful. Oh, But then when I started thinking about empaths and codependents, and I started to realize that very much part of the recovery journey is learning to grow a shell that protects the divine in a child, because as a codependent and an empath, you're naturally sensitive, right? So we need this protective shell. We need this skin that we have to develop. So anchoring yourself in having empathy for the self, in my opinion, will help you develop this extra psychological skin. Very important for you to remember. So the second thing is, I want you to remember that it's not your job to fix other people, and understand that everyone is on their own journey. As empaths and codependents, we tend to want to jump in and fix other people for a myriad of reasons. But one thought process that can really help you stay grounded, and remember, this is Rachel's question from Brooklyn, how can I stay more grounded? You have to understand and respect that every single person is on their own planetary journey. They're on their own spiritual journey. They're on their own spiritual quest. It is self-righteous of us to think that we have the right to interfere with someone else's life experience. Biblically, it's spoken that we should ask and thou shalt receive. So I heeded that message, and there's lots of wisdom, in ancient teachings like the Bible. And so when you pull that apart, ask and thou shalt receive, the opposite is true. If you're not asking, you can't receive. So I've learned to shut my big ass opinionated mouth and I wait for people to ask me a question now. So I had to learn how to be at a table of 10 or 12 or 15 people, because that's about the size of our family these days. And I had to learn to shut up and keep my opinion to myself until someone asked me what I thought. When someone asks you for their help, or someone asks you your opinion, that is when your wisdom and what you know can be accepted. And that's why so often when we try to force our alcoholics or the people that we love that are addicted into treatment, it fails, because they didn't ask to be helped. So it is very, very important to anchor yourself in the understanding that it is not your job to fix other people. It's just not. And everybody's on their own journey, which takes the load off of you. You don't have to be responsible for everybody else in your life. All you really have to do is be responsible for yourself. As you grow in self-responsibility, your vibration will rise, and you actually become an inspiration to those people. The third thing is that I want you to do one kind thing for yourself a day. So that might be journaling, that might be take a nap, that might be get a manicure, That might be, go fishing with your buddies. That might be, go bowling with a couple of friends. That might be organizing your office. That's also going to help you because you have to come at life from the position of self. As an empath, you are controlled by, unfortunately, until you really, really wake up. And I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you are serious about waking up and you understand that you are either asleep or you are awake. So I'm assuming that you wish to be awakened or you're on the awakened path, which is just terrific. So we're trying to learn to hold on to ourselves and live our life through our own unique perspective so that we can fulfill our destiny here on planet Earth, raise the vibrations of the planet, inspire one another. So doing one kind thing for yourself helps you stay connected to who you truly are. The fourth thing that I want you to do, and it sounds hokey pokey, but there is a lot of wisdom in it, is I want you to take an Epsom salt bath often. So that might be once a day. That might be a few times a day. When I was going through my recovery journey and I was really having all these awarenesses, like things changed. I got acne, my hair started falling out, my body, my odor changed. It was kind of weird, really strange. My skin got really greasy. My stomach started to change. I started to have, weird stomach issues. And I began to understand that my body was releasing toxins and releasing old dark energies. And I kind of just learned to go with it. I said, my body knows what it's doing. I'm bringing my mind, into alignment with my body. I'm going to learn to honor my body. I'm going to learn to let this anxiety, like Kundalini energy, just kind of shoo, through my crown chakra. I had repressed so much. Remember, depression is the result of suppression. If you're depressed, you're suppressing, you're repressing. If you really want to be freed of depression, in my opinion, you've got to learn to express. That doesn't mean that you express to people who abuse you. No. You have to hold on to yourself and honor your divine child in the company of people who are abusive. But you have to find a way to express what you feel, whether through journaling, whether through singing, whether through writing, whether through talk therapy, whether through your own video channel, whether through writing a book. You have to find a way to express these energies that have been repressed for so long, so that they can come through you and leave your crown chakra and return to where they came. That is really very, very helpful. Now, Epsom salt baths will help, very soothing, and I believe that bathing can be ritualistic. Not crazy, not OCD bathing. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about if you tapped into something that's very deep and dark and something that's been repressed in your being, or if you have this awareness about yourself and you're struggling with taking accountability and it's tough for you, go into the shower and just imagine yourself washing these dark energies off of you. If you've gone to a party and there are lots of people there and you're an empath and you felt like, these energies have just attached themselves to you. I took one of those showers this morning and I'm bathing myself and I'm imagining that, all these energies that are not mine are just, being washed off my body. And so it helps the mind, it helps the brain understand that the energies that you have absorbed or have attached themselves to you or that you have tapped into, however you want to perceive it, it helps your brain understand that it's separate from you. Those energies are not you, okay? So I would like you to consider adopting that as your own. The fifth thing that I would like you to remember is that you want to remind yourself that feeling other people's feelings can be a gift as well as a curse. It's exhausting. So use the beautiful gift of detachment. So it may help you to imagine having a force field around you. I do this a lot. That helps you block off other people's energies. So think often that what you want to ask yourself often, are these my feelings or are they someone else's feelings? Is this how I feel or am I imagining how she would feel? Lots of times as empaths, what we do is we'll observe a situation and our mirror neurons are just buzzing, and we're imagining we can actually feel what it feels like to be that person experiencing that situation. So number 5, you want to use the beautiful gift of detachment Ask yourself often, am I feeling what that person's feeling? Am I imagining what that person's feeling? How am I feeling? How am I feeling? If I was with my husband and we were doing this type of an exercise, I would have said to him, how are you feeling about your experience while you're here with this lab? What's your unique experience? That would have brought his focus back to himself, and I would have been able to help him retrieve his point of focus from outside of himself so that he can stay grounded and experience his unique experience. So I hope this video has helped those of you who are trying to figure out what's the difference between being a codependent and an empath. And I hope that those of you who have discovered that you're an empath, you're learning to really, really embrace this idea that you're super, super sensitive, which is awesome. I really hope that it's helped you gain more control over your beautiful gift. So remember, bring it back to you, work on being grounded, work on being focused. Think about the kinds of realities you want to experience. Bring your awareness into your body and hold on to yourself. Namaste, dear ones. I bow to the love and the light in you.